This woman was at a New York Chopt, and she filed a lawsuit because she was eating her salad and she bit into a part of a severed human finger.
Prioritizing profits. Prioritizing
Dangerous drug and product cases.
Welcome back. Another episode, another week, another episode. Prioritizing profits, dangerous drug and product cases. It's been 7 days since our last
a week, 7 days.
full week. We're back at it. How was your weekend? How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Good, actually, really good. I mean, it's been a little hectic between the traveling and Palm Springs and then coming back, and then we were up in Gilbert for Thanksgiving, so we got to spend time with the lovely Christina's family, so that was really nice. And then back here and down in Sonoyta, and we had some people over for dinner on Saturday. I don't know why I was like cramming everything in. So this is going to, well, actually, it won't be a terribly quiet weekend, come to think of it, but.
Well, it's holiday season. That's what happens.
Everything. True.
Everyone's moving, everyone's hanging out with friends and family. And then at the end of this month, when the new year hits, then you go back into your hole for 11 months.
Try to make up for all the damage you've done during the holiday season.
Exactly.
Yeah, recuperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, all in all, I think it's been, it's been good. Good. This is going to be, a little bit of a quieter weekend. We've got a little event here at the house on Friday evening, but then Saturday, then we're just going to have a quiet weekend in Sonoyta.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Well, Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving for all of our viewers and listeners. Hope you all enjoyed the holiday with family and friends. Like you said, we went down to Gilbert. We had Thanksgiving with Christina's family, which was very nice, very good time. They had a lot of fun. It seemed like you had a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely brought me back to like the Mexican side of my family in those days. Like a small house, but everyone just finds a way to fit in there. There's a ton of food, too much food for the amount of people. And it's just, all family hanging out, crammed into a house, and then you
find a yard. And
a yard.
We're going to spread out.
Yeah. But I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, Christina is Vietnamese, so her culture and very family based, like many Asian cultures, and I mean the family events are massive. Everyone, there's people. I'm like, oh, how do you know them? I don't know. I see them every year. I see them every year at Christmas and Thanksgiving. No clue my connection to them or their name, but
somehow they're related.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really cool.
But it was fantastic. I feel like this was like the first weekend I was really back and I was able to chill and relax. And it was a good time. Had hot pot, mostly hung out at the house, made dinner Saturday and Sunday. Usually we only do one day.
Wow.
Weekend. But thought, why not get a little crazy and cook 2 meals?
How much of the cooking did you do though? That's my question.
Well, I have a very important part
supervisory in all of this. Or entertainment or
I would say more
cheerleader.
If you don't know what you're cooking, you can't cook anything. So I'm on the suggestion side, right? I really get the ball rolling there. When everyone's paralyzed with indecisiveness, I'm out here saying, you know what, let's have this for dinner. And then once that'll kind of be the end of my...
Then you stand back.
Yeah. Then I just let my work unfold after that.
I think I like that idea.
Yeah. No, it's a good one. It's taken years to master and practice, but here I am.
Oh, I love it.
Well, chill weekend, it seems like upcoming, probably another chill weekend. Let's hop into topics, cases. As we always do, updates on cases.
Well, actually, and before we go to updates on cases, lately we haven't been. We talk so much about things, and it kind of goes on and on a little bit. But of course, totally entertaining.
I think that's what we're supposed to do on a podcast.
Yeah, important stuff.
Talk.
But we haven't gotten to cases in the news, and so there was a case in the news that actually I saw today. And it really hit home for me because last night was a little bit of a hectic evening, but we had Peter's ranch truck. It's this, what is it, 2001 Ford F-250.
Yeah, it's an old guy.
It's an old guy. I mean, over 300,000 miles on this thing.
Jesus Christ.
I know, and he'll never get rid of it.
It has to be illegal.
practically.
That's just
well, I mean, it's illegal to put me in
road
it.
safe.
No, I mean, when I met him, that was like his only mode of transportation. He was like, it's fine. Why would I get another vehicle? Anyway, it now has been relegated to the ranch truck. And unfortunately, we had some, what are they called? Pack rat. And we've had pack rat issues before, but he was trying to drive it to go get feed. And we do need it for, picking up feed and taking stuff to the dump, that kind of thing. Anyway, they chewed through the power steering fluid or something. And it was not drivable. So got that towed up here. We were finally going to get it picked up last night. And usually Tuesday night is our Tucson date night. We go out to dinner. But we also wanted to decorate for Christmas and the holidays. And so we decided we were going to stop and grab like a quick salad at, our version of this place is called Choice Greens.
Oh, I love Choice.
Right?
I love Choice. You can make just any salad you could possibly imagine, and the serving sizes are massive.
Oh, God, it was ridiculous. I hadn't been there in a number of years, but on the way across town to pick up the truck, we saw it, and I was like, oh, that's where I want to go when we come back. Haven't been there, and I just love it. And so we dropped off the truck, and as we're going, Peter's like, on the way to the truck, he looks and he's like, oh my God, the traffic's horrible. We can't go there. We're going to have to go someplace else, coming back a different route. And so then I moaned and groaned, and I don't like this place, and I don't like that place. And he's like, well, where do you really want to go? I said, I want to go to the damn salad place. So we decided to just brave the traffic. And this is after now we pick up the truck, we're in different vehicles, zero traffic coming back. I mean, and so I was very happy. Get there, no line. And it's one of these places where you fill it out. I mean, there's like, I don't know, 100 options of all the different kinds of lettuce, different kinds of dressings, and everything you could imagine putting in a salad. And then, adding the protein, chicken.
Yeah, and more. I mean, stuff that you wouldn't even imagine. They got it.
Oh, it's kind of ridiculous. And although I did notice, I hadn't been there in a long time, and I just get a little crazy. I'm like, that's good, that's good. Instead of coming up with like any theme, like things that actually go well together.
Yeah, you always need to have a theme for every salad.
Well, yeah. I mean, because they have like, Chinese chicken salad dressing, and then they have like the Chinese crunchy things. And I was like, I could have put something together there, but instead I just picked like...
You mixed all the cultures.
It was a mishmash. It was delicious, and it was humongous, as you said, probably because I had some of everything. Anyway, love the place. And then strangely enough, this morning, I'm kind of going through lawsuit cases, and there's a lawsuit, and this is one in New York, but it's called Chopt, C-H-O-P-T. Exactly the same thing. In fact, the ones here used to be called Chopt.
They sound,
with the other spelling, but then there was some sort of trademark or some lawsuit that happened, and they had to change it to Choice Greens. Anyway, same thing. So this woman was at a New York Chopt, and she filed a lawsuit because she was eating her salad and she bit into a part of a severed human finger.
Oh my God!
I mean, isn't this like?
It sounds like out of a shitty Halloween movie, like a really corny Halloween movie, or even what I'm thinking of too is like the Halloween, the Night Before Halloween or whatever with Jack Skellington.
Christmas.
Yeah, and imagining all these monsters going to a salad bar and then human fingers being one of the things you can throw in your salad, and they're like, "Oh, whoopsie, that wasn't meant for you. That was this other guy's salad."
He asked for fingers, you asked for toes.
Yeah.
Well, and so, but of course, like literally last night we were there and there wasn't any line, and so the way that they have this set up are, the choppers are back there and they were just chopping
go crazy, yeah.
And there's this plexiglass thing so you can watch what they're doing, and so everything is chopped. Like the lettuce is chopped into little tiny pieces. It's like bite size. It's really nice. You barely have to chew. So they have these big bowls and they just toss in all the things that you want, and then it's just chop, 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 chop. Hence the name. You could see somebody gets a little crazy. They chop a piece of their finger off.
Yeah.
But what is the crazy thing about when I started reading this is that it was a manager chopped her finger off while she was making a salad, and then they rushed her to the hospital.
And just left the finger behind.
Right. But this is so weird. I mean, isn't that like one of the things you're taught as a child, that like if somebody loses a finger, you pick it up, put it on ice, and take it with you?
Yeah. No, I remember being taught that. It was like one of the first lessons I learned in PE, physical health. If anyone loses a body part, grab the body part.
Well, you don't just leave it in a salad to be served. I mean, it's like she gets rushed out, and then the other choppers just complete the salad.
Well, also, it's not like I'm assuming it wasn't a super clean cut. There had to have been a lot of blood and,
Oh, I didn't even think. I mean,
it had to have been a relatively messy scene. And, they rush her off. They're like, okay, we got to get you to the ambulance, rush her off. Everyone else is there. Well, like, okay, well, let's get back to work. And they just get like not a second thought about the blood and gore and fingers and mucus everywhere.
I don't know if there was mucus, but
in my imagination,
there usually is.
I was ad-libbing.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's like, what a crazy thing. And then this woman's eating the salad, and she says that she is just enjoying her salad, and then she realized she was chewing on a portion of a human finger.
Do you think she realized after she spit it out, or she was like, chewing on it, and then she's like, oh my God, this is a finger in my mouth?
I don't know. I mean, when it's all mixed up like that, because I had like chicken in mine last night, and the chicken's chopped up into little pieces.
It could have been a finger for
but,
all
I mean,
you know.
it could have been a finger. I mean, there's a bone. Well, it could have been or a fingernail.
Nail, bone, yeah.
Anyway,
Good calcium.
but it's and I've had cases not like this exactly, but cases where people like find really nasty stuff in their food after they've eaten it. We had one case actually. Oh, what was?
Wait, were you the one that told me about the rat in the monster can? There was a monster, like a drink.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't like a case that I had, but it was probably one.
Yeah. And there was a guy that, went to Circle K, he was going to work, and he got his monster, as everyone does in the morning to get ready for the day. He just takes a sip of it, then he says, it tastes a little bit off, drinks the whole thing. And then, when you put it above your head, here's a little clunk at the bottom. Turns out it was a dead rat just marinating in his monster for who knows how long. And then he just finished it off. You'd think you'd notice that.
Yeah. I mean, there are many of these situations that even we're at the restaurant and then you find like a cockroach or you find, something. And the thing is that more often than not, people get really mentally and they get physically ill. Maybe they throw up because they're so freaked out, but they don't necessarily get really sick. I mean, the rat thing maybe is different.
Yeah.
But this is one of those situations where she doesn't have medical well, I don't know if she has medical bills per se, but this is just the lawsuit was filed and it's public record, so we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's pretty clear that they're liable for serving up a salad. Their protocols were not followed.
There was no warning.
Things get chopped off at Chopt.
Yeah, there's a specific intention of things getting chopped at Chopt.
Exactly. When the wrong things get chopped at Chopt.
I'm surprised they don't have a waiver saying whatever gets chopped here, we're not responsible for. Chopping does take place.
Beware. Look at everything before you put it in your mouth. But it's all like mixed up with the dressing and all this. Anyway, so her lawsuit, her damages she is alleging are shock, panic attacks, migraine, cognitive impairment. I'm not sure about that. Traumatic stress and anxiety.
I mean, that seems like shock, trauma. Like she'll never recover from this. I mean, I'm assuming she was just really fucking grossed out and spit it out. It's like, okay,
yeah.
But she's not going to be having night terrors every night.
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, different people will react differently about consuming human remains, human body parts. She's not, cannibals might find this no big deal. They might have been like bonus. I would have paid extra.
Some parts of the world, it's a cuisine.
Delicacy.
It's a delicacy, exactly.
So, but I mean, some people would react. I mean, I have, had these cases where people go, well, I'll never be able to eat soup again. Or every time I eat this particular type of food, I freak out or that. I mean, so maybe she could never eat a salad again.
Maybe she can't look at any fingers. Otherwise she gets hungry.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, kind of a crazy situation, but it was just so weird and timely because I hadn't been to this place in ages, had such a great meal there, and then the next morning I'm like, wow, I just dodged a bullet or a finger or something.
Yeah, I mean, great coincidence there. It seems like you were lucky enough to avoid having a finger. But I feel like this is one of those types of cases that's like slip and fall where, it almost gives lawyers a bad rep because people, in the movies, you see them like sneaking a cockroach in their own sandwich and like the last bite of it to get a free meal or, now how often is that it leads to a lawsuit and it's worth a lawsuit where, they're actually getting damages and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so kind of two different issues there. The first is where people try to take advantage of things for some benefit, where they eat the entire meal and, like you said, sneak something in. And obviously, this isn't the case. I mean, it was a finger, and we even know whose finger it was because she was in the hospital.
That would be a real twist to the story. They have no idea where or who the finger came from, and they still, to this day, no clue.
Well, then they could blame the patron and say, you just brought that piece of finger in and tossed it in to get an $8 salad.
I mean, that would be an impressive plan. Impressive.
Impressive. So yeah, I mean, I think there are, in any of these cases, that people can try to scam. And again, people try to blame the lawyers for this, but lawyers don't want a shitty, scammy case. I mean, they're going to lose money. They're not going to make any money. They're going to waste their time and energy and all of that. So, people, we try to be very careful about those types of situations and investigate and make sure that there's nothing, no shenanigans going on. Mm-hmm. As far as the damage issue, that it is, each person reacts differently to a circumstance. And if this person is really fragile mentally or truly can't ever eat a salad again, that's their claim. Now, again, this may go in front of a jury, and I can see your face.
Well, it's just, I like the terminal. If they're really just mentally fragile, if they're a puss, I mean, they might have some serious damages here.
Well, then some people are much tougher than others, but I don't know how I would feel if I would be uncomfortable going to restaurants. I don't know how I would react, honestly. A fly or something like that, I'm going to get over it. A finger, I don't know.
Yeah, I think fingers, it throws you off a little bit. It throws you off. And I also think, like, to the extent, because if I took a bite and I chewed it and I was like, that's kind of weird, but I just kept on going through it. And then it wasn't until I got chunks of bone in my teeth that I was like, wait a second, and realized it was a finger. Then that would be a little bit more traumatic. But if I was just flipping through it, I feel like everyone's been in this situation where they, they're going through their food, they're like halfway through and they see a hair. And you look at it and you think to yourself, I hope to God that's my hair.
Yeah.
And then you finish your meal.
Well, you do. Maybe people who are a little more fragile don't finish their meal. But yeah, I mean, and she actually says that she was chewing on it. And so I again, it's very fact specific, and the damages are very specific. And so if somebody had just seen it in there, it would still be really shocking and upsetting. But having it in your mouth, and then there's always, people can argue, well, have I been exposed to HIV, hepatitis, something like that? Because, I mean, technically that's like a biohazard. It's a body part. There's presumably blood somewhere.
I'm assuming it's against FDA regulation and whatever.
It's against all sorts of food safety protocols and regulations, for sure. So again, this one was a little bit worse in the sense that she had it in her mouth and chewing it.
And sucked on it, took it home. Came back the next day. Guys, I thought this was just a really new addition to your salads. I didn't realize until I got home.
There should be some memes where now the options, the check boxes have for body parts and all.
Well, and what's really unfortunate is so close to Halloween, she probably had to take a second guess and was like, wait, is this just a Halloween prank? Halloween.
That would be a nasty prank if you put like a fake finger in.
Yeah, but it used to make the feet of meat. So meat in the shape of a foot.
It was basically meatloaf. It's basically scary meatloaf.
You do that, but you make a fake finger with it.
Yeah, instead. But see, that's why, I mean, you had feet of meat growing up, so you are accustomed to eating body parts.
Yeah, I mean, that's like as bad as it gets, right? A foot in your meal?
And there were toenails made out of nuts, made out of almonds.
Yeah.
So for you, I think you're desensitized. You would probably be fine in this scenario.
Toenails, please, throw it in my
Bring
salad.
Bring them on. Hair, now a hair's an issue, but toenails I'm all good with.
Sick. Hair is sick. That is crazy. It's insane. And so it seems like obviously there are bad actors out there that will try to make a case out of anything, but most of the time the lawyers are going to do their due diligence and make sure they're not wasting the time or money to pursue it. But it also seems like, with cases specifically like this where, it's a finger or a hair or a cockroach or a rat, something along those lines, it's a very case by case situation if it's actually going to be successful in any way.
Well, yeah, and I mean the reality too is that even like her damages. I mean, you were a little bit of eye rolling over there. I was kind of a little bit of skeptical. For an attorney, I mean, you need to have sufficient damages that you're going to have to pay money to file the lawsuit. You're going to have to do the depositions. You invest a fair amount of money in a case. And so the damages or what the person's going to recover and your 1/3 has to be more than that, or it doesn't make any sense for you to take the case.
Yeah.
And so these cases, again, if it's some minor thing like a hair or something like that, or even you just see it and you don't put it in your mouth, most people aren't going to take that case because even on a good day, what is a jury going to award somebody on something like this? If you don't, I mean, I don't know if she went to the hospital or not. I doubt it. No. So what is it? How much do you get for pain and suffering or emotional distress in this situation? And again, it depends on the jury and the person and how believable they are and how sincere they are about the effects it's had on them. But what if the case is only where the jury is $5,000, $10,000, $15,000? It doesn't make sense for an attorney to put all their time and energy into a case where they're going to maybe make $5,000 2 years later.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there are cases like this though, where you get front page news, you get a lot of attraction.
Well, there's that. I mean, it's pretty extreme. So I get why they filed on this one, but yeah, most of the cases they're just not that great. I mean, we've had this was in my food and I didn't eat it, but I saw it and it upset me. And more often, sometimes you'll go ahead and do a demand letter. A lot of times in these situations, when if you can confirm that this was in there, whatever it is, the company will do the right thing and compensate the person reasonably if they did have a couple of medical bills or something along those lines.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking now, too, I wonder how the worker that lost her finger feels. If someone was just not chomming down on her finger.
Well, now that's going to be a workers' comp case.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, you kind of signed up for it.
Oh,
working at Chopt.
Okay, but that's
get a little chopped, buddy.
That's what workers' comp is about. It doesn't matter who's at fault. If you cause your own injury, you still can collect workers' comp.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a whole different process.
So it is. So it's a different process altogether, but it still counts for everything.
Well, yeah, and we should actually probably talk about that at some point, like what the difference is between workers' comp and a PI case.
Yeah.
But the workers' comp system, and so all employers pay into that. It's basically insurance. Mm-hmm. And if a worker's hurt when they're on the job, they get compensated. And it doesn't matter if it was their fault, if it was a coworker's fault, if it was some third party outside of the employment, the place of employment, like they were in a car accident. Yeah. You could also have a PI case. Mm-hmm. But the workers' comp then would actually get paid back from that PI case for whatever they paid for the injuries. But yeah, so the workers' comp is just automatic. If you get hurt on the job, you're going to get compensated. So she will get compensated, but it's not. I mean, it's very minimal compared to what juries sometimes reward. In fact, there's like a chart for like missing body parts, and I don't know what a finger's worth, but there'll be a set amount.
Yeah. I don't remember getting workman's comp for being hit by a fleeing criminal.
Well, you actually were not on the job at that point. You were driving to and from work, and this is not the place you'd want to argue that.
Yeah, okay.
I was just saying, but especially since you have a uninsured motorist claim.
Yeah, well, okay.
But to and from work actually is not considered is not covered under the workers' comp.
And so PI, what really differentiates PI from workman's comp cases is having a third party involved. Because if it's just you and your workspace or your employer, and you injure yourself or you get injured, it kind of makes sense to want to keep that more internal and keep that just like within the business, and get obviously compensated for that.
Yeah, but it's not the business is paying. So as a business, you have to have workers' comp insurance. And so for the law firm, I've always paid our premiums. And so the employee can't sue the employer. Mm-hmm. they simply make the claim under the workers' comp insurance. Now, if you didn't have workers' comp, then they could sue you.
Oh, okay.
But that is the exclusive remedy. If there is workers' comp, somebody could. I mean, there's some complications to this. Technically, you could opt out of workers' comp, up front, but that might be kind of stupid too, because then suppose you do something stupid, you're not going to get covered. Most people are not going to do that. They're going to get paid under the insurance system. Then you can't sue the employer. It's just basically like an insurance claim.
And so would it be fraud? Because I always try to think of how can someone manipulate this or cut corners here. Would it be fraud if someone clearly was intentionally injuring themselves in the workplace to receive workman's comp?
Well, yeah, if they intentionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that's probably what gets decided is whether or not it was intentionally or not. And I mean, if there's bystanders and onlookers or camera or anything like that, because I would imagine with this idea that everyone's you can sue anyone for anything, and there's all these slip and fall fake cases and the McDonald's cases, this whole idea behind it. Workman's comp is one of those areas that's easily manipulated.
Well, and in certain types of injuries, so for example, if you're in a physical job and you're like, oh, ow, my back hurts, I mean,
Well, that's a great question. Is if you're working construction, you hurt your back, you slip a disc or something, is that workman's comp or is that just you're working in construction?
No, it is. Well, it's workers' comp. If it happens while you're working, it's workers' comp. Now, what happens is sometimes the workers' comp system, like an insurance company will hire a doctor. They'll require you to go see a particular doctor.
Yeah.
You have to treat with workers' comp doctors. And so there are times where the doctor says this isn't related or he's better, even though he says he's not. And so you have to, there are attorneys who their entire practice is workers' comp cases for those types of situations where the person says, no, I really am injured, and they're disputing and they're denying and they're saying that I should be better now and I should be back on the job.
Yeah.
But, if you were going to scam a system, workers' comp would not be the ideal one because the amount you get paid is minimal compared to, again, what we said, what a jury might award.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like your loss of earnings, it's like 2/3. So basically, less taxes or whatever. I mean, you're not getting, there's no punitive damages. There's no huge awards.
Yeah. If anything, it's
you're
some
scraping
days.
by. Well, it's, some pretty crappy vacation days. I mean, it's basically, less than what you would be earning if you were at work. Yeah. I mean, again, people will scam over anything and everything. So yes, I'm sure people try to do that. And again, the system is set up to try to catch that.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, we really got into a lot of things from this chopped finger situation.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Who knew? I mean, that was a pretty in-depth story or a topic, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could go on workman's comp for a little bit, but I don't want to get too far off topic. Do you want to continue with updates on cases or cases in the news?
Well, so let's talk about some updates on cases. And this is one we talked about a little ways back. I don't remember if you recall the Pam cooking sprays. The cans were exploding and catching on fire.
Yes, it does sound familiar.
Right. So there were a number of lawsuits, and the first verdict has come out, and it is $7.1 million.
Wow.
And of that, $4 million of it is punitive.
Wow.
And 3.1 is compensatory. So actually the value of the specific injuries.
Yeah.
Now, when you were caught on fire, which is what happened. I mean, this woman literally was on fire.
Jesus. So and refresh my memory is that they're exploding, and obviously, Pam, you're using it by, the stove when you're cooking. They're exploding and seemingly catching on fire into a fireball.
They're blowing, pretty much, yes.
Jesus.
And so, and yeah, I mean, of course they're stored, relatively close, but it's a very specific can, and it's the larger can, so they're at least 10 ounces. Mm-hmm. But if you go to Costco and you get one of the big ones,
I've gotten those before.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, so this lawsuit, the woman Tammy Reese, she was actually on the job when this injury happened. But so this is actually kind of a good segue.
Yeah.
So her workers' comp would have paid for her medical expenses while she was going through this. But she has horrendous, awful burns, scar tissue, I think her face, her hands. There were pictures online. She was really messed up. And burns are just some of the, it's like the most painful kind of injury and just very disfiguring. So that would have been paid through workers' comp. But then the third party, ConAgra, the manufacturer of PAM and these other cooking sprays, that's the third party. So there was a separate lawsuit against them. And here you go, big damages that you would never see through the workers' comp system. And then the workers' comp would get paid back out of
they get reimbursed.
They would get reimbursed out of this.
That makes sense.
Right. So, and so the cans, the issue, and the reason that this was a punitive case, I mean, 3.1 actually makes a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but I mean, this is not a sore back.
I was going to say, and I was more shocked at the punitive damages because, like you said, burnings, those can be some of the most horrendous injuries and disfiguring for sure. But for punitive, it has to seem like there was maybe not ill intent, but some malicious, some nefarious, this is clearly a little, there's fault on the company here.
Well, and there was. So what happened is they changed the aerosol container in 2011. They developed this new can in an effort to save money. And then they found out that these problems were happening and that they were very dangerous and could explode, but they opted not to recall them. They did change the design in 2019. So these things were manufactured between 2011 and 2019.
Which is a long fucking time.
Which is a long time. And then even when they realized this was a problem, they said, hey, we'll change the design back to the safer version. They didn't do a recall. So they left all of those cans on the shelves. And this is not something like, tomatoes where it comes off the shelf in 7 days or something. These are the shelf life is several years.
Yeah.
So there are probably cans on shelves that people could be buying right now that will have the potential to explode and catch on fire and cause horrendous injuries. And so, if you're buying these things, take a look at them. The way that you know is if you look at the bottom of the can, there's 4 U-shaped score marks on them. And it's supposed to allow it to vent, but apparently the venting is exploding instead of venting. So if you are buying any of these, take a look at the bottom of the can. And if it was manufactured between 2011 and 2019, you don't want this thing anywhere near you.
Yeah. And the U-shaped score marks, will cans that are safe not have those at all?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is just the very first case that went to trial to a verdict, but there are 56 other cases that have been filed with 61 injured plaintiffs. And again, there may well be more cases getting filed because these cans are out there and they could explode at any time. And some people, of course, are going to be less severely injured, but this woman was really horrendously injured. And like you said, I mean, the punitives is like, hey, they knew that this was a problem. They did it to save money, as they always do, the prioritizing profits thing. They did it to save money. They were injuring and killing people. And then when they knew it, they still didn't recall the things and pull them back. They left them out there.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting part is that it's not like it was a brand new product and they didn't have anything to replace it with. It was something where they already had PAM and they had a model, they were selling it, they were making money, and they wanted to make more money, so they created a new model, realized that it had issues, and instead of just going back to the old one that worked completely fine, had no issues, they left the new one out there for, what is it, like 7-8 years?
Well, so they started in 2011 up through 2019, and I'm not sure the exact dates of when they really started learning that it was a problem, but so it may not have been in 2011, but certainly it was well before 2019 when they said, okay, we're going back to the old design. We're not going to produce new ones, but we're not going to, pull the ones back that are out there because we can still sell them and make money, and it's a big hassle to recall and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and I think what's even scarier about this is, so the numbers was, what was it, 44 so far?
56 cases. 56 cases that are pending.
Yeah, which, I mean, in the scope of like mass torts and some of these other cases that we talked about is definitely a smaller number. But what I think is important to note is that these cases and these injuries and these events are also a lot more like dramatic Using a weed killer and then having slowly developing a disease over several years and then realizing it over several more years. It's serious and it's terrible, but it's not as dramatic as a fireball of flames at the work office, a literal explosion in your hands.
Well, and you don't have to argue about causation. I mean, they're going to say, oh, well, we're not sure the cancer was caused by this. I mean, okay, the fireball, yes, that's what burned you.
Yeah.
And this isn't a multi-district litigation. Again, there's not that huge number of them, but there's actually 56 lawsuits filed. But the issue too is that how many times did it explode, but luckily people weren't horrendously injured and didn't file a lawsuit.
Yeah, or just think, wow, I guess I just got unlucky with this one-off.
Right, or just it burned down your kitchen, or it caused an issue here, but somebody wasn't hurt badly enough that they actually filed a lawsuit. And then there's other people who get really seriously injured, and they're just really or they say, well, I'm not very litigious, and there's just anti-lawsuit. So who knows how many there are, but one is too many when the company knows.
Yeah.
And could have saved that person. And that's, I think, why they got slammed with some punitive damages.
Well, that's good that the jury recognized that. I think that's insane, especially when you hear about it with products like PAM, which I think everyone really uses. Like, I think everyone's familiar with it. When you walk down cooking spray aisles, that is like the brand that you see. Yeah. So when you realize... like the hair relaxers. I don't use hair relaxers, and there's a lot of people who don't use hair relaxers. I feel like everyone uses PAM.
Well, and it's touted as being so much healthier than cooking oil, which again is a whole questionable thing we could get into. But I mean, that was the trend, was that it was going to be less calories, and you just do this little spray. And so I think for a really long time, that's just the automatic. Yeah. I mean, eggs, of course.
Did it say what she did for a living? Was she a chef? I'm assuming that was.
Yes, okay. She was working as a cook at a social club, and and so she wasn't even using it at the time, but it was in the vicinity. It was overpressurized and exploded, igniting in flames.
Wow, so she wasn't even using it; it was just sitting on the counter and just wow. That's even. I'm imagining it being in the hand and you're spraying it.
No, and that's always the issue too, because some people would spray it. And once the heat's already turned on, which of course you're not supposed to do.
Oh, I didn't know
No,
that.
it's just in the area. No, you want to spray it before you turn the heat on, because
doesn't it burn the oil though?
Well, you spray the pan and then you turn the heat on underneath it. Because the thing is that, so if you have like a flame going and you start spraying it in that area, you could see how it could.
Yeah.
It would be dangerous. So yeah, if you're using it, please don't.
Luckily, I don't really cook very often. So.
Well, that's true. You come up with the idea and stand back at a safe distance.
But I will warn Christina. I will make sure to warn her and let her know to stay away from PAM.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's a crazy one. God, those cases where those damages, imagining kind of that entire event taking place is really horrific. And it's good to see at least that there is punitive damages and that the company is kind of getting, a slap on the hand, slap on the wrist at the very least. Yeah.
And some bad publicity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All righty.
Another update. So social media cases, we've talked about those a few times. So we talked about how there are individual people who are filing lawsuits, there are school districts, and there are also states.
Yeah.
So attorney generals of states are filing lawsuits. And in the state lawsuit, and again, this is in California as well, there are 42 states combined into this litigation. And so initially when the lawsuit was filed, a lot of the information was under seal or redacted, so you couldn't, certain things that were sensitive and that they didn't want the public to know. They have unredacted some of the information in these lawsuits, and some really kind of juicy things have come up that are not looking too good for Mark Zuckerberg. And I don't know if so one of the issues is there is this act called the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And what that says is that you can't collect information from children online and utilize that.
Oh, wow. So they've been blatantly ignoring that for years now.
Well, they pretty much have. I mean, they say that they don't allow anybody on their sites that are under 13. And so he claimed, in fact, he was testifying before a Senate committee about how if they find out somebody's 13 or under, they're kicking them off. But what these documents are showing is that that's not the case, that they've known for a long time that they have millions of users who are under 13, and they try to not make it obvious that they know this. They try to hide it. And so what they're saying publicly and then what they're saying behind closed doors in their in their committees are completely different. And so these studies are showing that they've been tracking and documenting under 13 years olds. They call them U13s.
They even got a name for them.
U13, in the audience for years. And as of 2018, apparently 20% of 12-year-olds were on Instagram using it daily. 20% is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a really high number. And how is there no, not reinforcement necessarily, but like you said, Mark Zuckerberg went up and testified about this and said that they weren't allowing 13-year-olds, and then it comes out that they were. How can that just, go unnoticed? And
well, it's how this whole thing started were that there were whistleblowers or people, employees who came forward and started talking and telling the secrets of what went on behind closed doors. And so that's how all of these lawsuits started. And now these documents are coming out, these internal documents, and we're seeing just how bad it is, and the fact that they knew that. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's in 2018, they're saying that Mark Zuckerberg received a report showing that there were 4 million people under 13 on Instagram as of 2015. That's
Mark Zuckerberg
personally got that information. And this was about a third of all 10 to 12-year-olds in the U.S. I mean, we're not talking like a few people are skating by.
No,
a
that's
third
insane.
of them. A
third of all of them, 4 million. I mean, that is such a massive. Oh, I wonder if it's massive for Instagram and their user base, because I feel like they probably have tens of millions.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, like you said, a third of all kids that age on Instagram, crazy.
Well, and they want kids, apparently. I'm stopping with that, apparently. I keep saying that. They, according to the lawsuit and the documents, they really want kids. There was an internal presentation at Meta, Facebook at the time, and called 2017 Teens Strategic Focus. So, and again, they're always trying to figure out how to better their product, how to get more users, how to keep them on longer, all of these things. And so they had done this study, and it was specifically focusing or targeting kids under 13, noting that kids as early as 3 or 4 are using tablets.
That's just so blatantly illegal.
Yeah.
Well, and for the act that you mentioned at the beginning, and kids, is that just 13? Because I always assumed it counted for anyone under 18.
Well, that act applies to children under 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So specifically on the internet.
Wow, even more generous than I had thought it was, and they're still blatantly breaking it.
Yeah. Well, and then there's a whole issue about verifying someone's age, and there's a big argument, and even Peter was arguing with me about that. Well, how can they do that? And I don't know how they can do that, but I know that they
can 100%. I mean, I think about how much information they have on you for marketing and for advertisements and everything. I mean, they 100% can and have that information available to them. Maybe they have to go somewhere in the back end and set it up and look for it, but if they really wanted to get it, they could get it.
Yeah, see, that's what I said. I mean, it's crazy what they have done, and the people that they have on staff, and these brilliant people developing these products. Yeah, if they want to, they can, exactly. But some of the things that they were saying was, for example, there are situations where, there was 402,000 reports where actual parents or other people had reported this person is under 13, and less than 164,000 of them got disabled.
Less than 146,000 out of how many?
402,000.
Wow. Okay.
And again, how many people actually make a report? So this chunk of people, even when a parent says, my child is on, I'm telling you, he or she is under 13, disable the account, and they're not doing it. And then they're saying, well, we didn't get around to it. We have backlogs. We don't have enough staff. And again, that's just crap. Yeah. I mean, they have staff figuring out how to get all of these people on. It's where they're prioritizing. It's what they're prioritizing, where they're putting their focus. And the fact of the matter is they don't want these kids off. No. They want to keep them on. I mean, it's big money for them.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because it reminds me on Discord, because they have to abide by the same rules. There's some people obviously in like the NFT chats and stuff, people joke around and they're like, oh, I'm only 12 or blah, 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 blah. And then someone will report them and the next day they're banned.
Oh, wow.
They're banned and they have to appeal it because Discord tracks all the messages, right? There's keywords that they can track. And so when someone gets reported, it pops up. And then if they have, those certain words, language, whatever it is, it'll just auto ban you. And so people joking around saying that they're under 13, boom, banned. So
wow.
Some of these big businesses are willing to do it, but it makes sense that Instagram and Facebook, I mean, the clutches that they want to have over.
Oh, yeah. Get them young and get them hooked young, and you've got lifetime.
Well, and it's just so insane to me too that like people would argue they can't or don't know the age of people using their app because 100%, like you said, the resources that they're putting in to set up this marketing, making sure people are always coming back, always refreshing their page. And I'm assuming they have a lot of this market research. And the biggest part of market research is age ranges. Like this age range likes this age range like this, and then compiling them into these groups. You think, out of the third of all kids in that age group in the country, they didn't think, oh, wow, these guys they're probably a little, under 13.
Well, and aren't they suspicious too when like a 18 or 19-year-old is like looking at Squishmallows or
Paw Patrol, Barney. They're ordering Teletubbies.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, do you really believe that? I mean, that's some pretty crappy marketing.
Well, then you're asking them to discriminate because I'm sure there's a lot of Brawnies out there. It's a lot of big supporters of those TV series, even older than
the collectors.
They are well cultured collectors. Okay.
Yeah, but no, you see, I mean, I totally agree with you. I'm sure they can. But one of the things that and what these documents are showing that's really kind of on the evil side is where they're saying basically don't tell me. There was one, let's see, they were talking, this was in 2018. Let's see, well, one of the quotes was, we want to be careful about sharing findings that come back and point to under 13-year-olds being bullied on the platform because we're not supposed to have under 13s on here.
And definitely not being bullied on there.
Right. And then in 2021, there was a study. They were studying child-adult sexual-related content, behavior, interactions. And they said, well, we're not going to include young kids 10 to 12 years in the research, even though they're definitely on Instagram, because they're not supposed to be on here at all. So we're not even going to look at anything that's happening with 10 to 12-year-olds.
How is this not criminal proceedings here?
Well, maybe it will be. This literally just is kind of breaking news that this information was disclosed. Now, they're, of course, denying it, so we'll have to see how the litigation proceeds.
I mean, some of this stuff, it sounds like you're reading like exact quotes here.
Oh, yeah. And these are in the actual lawsuit. And again, it was redacted under seal. You couldn't see all of these things. Now it's in the news and everybody's looking at this and going, holy shit, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that is just so blatantly and openly breaking the law in such a variety of different ways. And the fact that Mark Zuckerberg even testified.
And they're saying now it's showing that he personally knew this information.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that he's not going to get punished at all for this. Like, I think they're going to get fined and they'll get yelled at, and some of these lawsuits are going to go through. They'll lose some pocket change, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be dethroned as a CEO.
No, I'm confident as well. He will not. But and this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I suspect we're going to start seeing, and this is the information they had going into the lawsuit. So these are when they get some additional discovery exchanged. If these things don't get resolved. But, and again, we've talked about this before, but the point of these lawsuits by the states are trying to force them to change their policies. I mean, yes, there's some, maybe compensation for expenses and costs that have been incurred. But I mean, they're really trying to say, look, you're not following the rules. You need to follow the rules. You need to follow the law, and you got to stop hurting these kids. And you can't, put your head in the sand and say, oh, we're not hurting kids because they're not allowed to be on here. Yeah. I mean, there's evidence that they know they're on there. People are specifically asking, block my kid, disable this account. And they're just, well, when we get around to it.
Yeah. Yeah, they just are ignoring it. I mean, it is surprising, and I don't want to be pessimistic.
Okay, don't be pessimistic.
But already there's these laws and they're ignoring those. The state's coming in here and they're trying to say, hey, guys, like, really, we need help with this. Please don't do this. If they're just already ignoring the law, what's this really going to do to stop them?
Oh, but that's what we do as lawyers.
Yeah.
We slam them in the head with the law. We pursue people who aren't following the laws, and basically make them pay and make them hurt so that they do. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of laws out there, and people try to skirt them as much as they can. And these big companies, when it's all about money.
Yeah. Yeah, terrible. I think, so what is the feelings of it in kind of like the lawyer circles and communities with the social media case that we've been discussing these last few weeks? This seems like almost breaking news when it's associated with that. Is everyone kind of feeling more confident about it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that they've been confident about it all along, but it's interesting how it's kind of snowballing. I mean, you have the individual people, you have the school districts, you have the states. I mean, you see just how pervasive this is and how far-reaching the effects are, and how it's not just affecting an individual person. It's affecting, the whole school systems.
Society.
I mean, they're not able to, it's really affecting society. And so I think it's just kind of snowballing. And again, it's almost like with the MDL thing, where it's really hard for one attorney, one plaintiff to pursue some huge corporation. And I mean, and Meta, and
that's as big
all
as
of these
it
things.
gets.
I mean, they're as big as it gets. And so it's not even just the private attorneys, it's also the school districts, it's also the attorney generals.
No.
And when you bring those in, then there is the potential for criminal as well. Again, I agree with you. I don't see that really flying. Well, I mean, I see it flying, but I don't see it ending up happening. I see fines, in compensation, but I don't see anybody going to jail over this. So
no chance.
Yeah.
And I think that's like what's the most frustrating part in my mind is that this seems like the most clear-cut case where there should be at least some type of punishment outside of just money, because this is like one of the biggest companies in the world. And it also reminds me is that I think it was last week. I don't know if you saw this news, but Binance, which is like the biggest exchange when it comes to crypto.
Yeah.
And after FTX fell, especially, Binance is kind of like top dog. They essentially forcefully like made the CEO step down. His name's CZ because he had a warrant out for his arrest, but he was in a non-extradite country. And essentially with all the regulation going on with Bitcoin and with Ethereum, the idea was that, once you take out this head honcho, he's going to take a bullet for like essentially the whole community. And then now that he's down, non-CEO anymore, they can kind of push regulation forward. I would love to see something like that with this situation. We know it's going on, but at least, take Mark Zuckerberg down with you,
Well, I mean, it's possible. Again, we don't know where this is going to go. I mean, I don't think he's going to go to jail, but maybe he does have to step down as CEO at some point.
Maybe.
But and then you look to it like all of the opioid situations and how they, those, the CEOs there didn't go to prison, and I mean that's so. It's absurd.
Yeah, and I mean the what. We do kind of spreading the education, making sure that the victims are compensated for their damages and that these companies are feeling it where it really matters in their coin booklet, in their wallet. I think that's all important. It's just, I think it gets me a little heated and frustrated at times because I know at the end of the day, the people at the top, the people that are really responsible
and really profiting the most,
they're not really caring. Mark Zuckerberg's not going to feel it in his pockets necessarily.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's why we do what we do. And
that's why we do what we do.
On
that note, yeah, we are kind of coming to a close here on the last 10-ish minutes of the show. I want to make sure we go over everything that you wanted to cover. Is there any kind of ending topics that you want to touch on?
Yeah, actually. So, and this is kind of breaking news, and it's with regard to the CPAP machines for sleep apnea. And this actually just came out, but the Dream Station 2 CPAP machine has been recalled by the FDA has released a safety communication about this product. I shouldn't say it's recalled because they are, strange, it must be our theme, catching on fire.
Wow.
Right. And so a lot of people have these Dream Station 2 because they were switched out. Some of them were switched out for the original ones with the foam. I mean, the Dream Station 2s can also have that.
And they like the name. That's why I would get it. Dream Station, that sounds like something I want
It
to
really,
be sleeping with.
yeah, it does, and it kind of sounds like maybe a video game or PlayStation, Dream
Yeah.
Station.
Yeah,
I
like a
don't
location
know.
in a game.
Yeah, and so, but they don't know exactly why it's happening yet. It's under investigation, but within the last, I think, so between August 1st and of 2023 and November 15th of 2023, they received more than 270 reports of problems with this device, with it overheating, catching on fire. In the prior 3 years, they had less than 30 reports.
Wow. So it is a big
So
uptick.
something's going on. They're not sure exactly why it's happening, but it's something that that people who are using this machine, and we know that many people are. Obviously, we've talked about with the problem with
Well, it seems like more people are, because you said that a lot of the users are getting it, like that's the one that they're getting in return when they're exchanging the.
Well, it's the newer one, and some people maybe already have had them, but then some people are, who had to turn in their older Dream Station ones. But what they're saying is, at this point, if you're not having issues with the thing and you need to use it to continue to use it, they will be updating. But in the meantime, if some things which seem kind of basic to me, but if you smell burning smoke or any unusual odors, unplug it and don't use it.
Well, most of the times people are using this, they're sleeping though.
Right. Well, and they maybe as they turn it on before they go to sleep and that sort of thing. But they're saying, make sure that you don't, if there's any odors with it, if you spill water onto it, if you hear any strange sounds, unplug it and don't use it. And of course, they will update as they kind of figure out what the issue is. They don't know. All they know is that a lot of complaints are coming in that these things are overheating and potentially catching on fire, which is just, Jesus. These poor people who have sleep apnea, it's like
One after another, man.
Yeah, they get rid of the first one, they get the second one, and now it's catching on fire. So
if you don't, die in flames sleeping, then you'll die
you'll
from
get
lung
cancer eventually.
5 years down the road.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy. So again, Phillips is having a rough go of it.
Yeah. So is it the same company that this entire CPAP situation?
Yeah, it's all Phillips.
All Phillips.
Yeah, basically they have the market. I don't even know what the market share is, but it's almost all of it.
How and now it's two different products causing two different issues. Well, I guess the first issue with the black foam getting into lungs, that was kind of just all of their products. That was just almost
everything that had that sound.
But now it's also a completely separate issue that seems a little bit more narrowly focused on a specific model, but still another big problem like this.
Yeah. Well, and kind of like you said before, you got the Monsanto, the thing that takes a long time to happen, like the cancer, or you can just go up in flames. You got both of them here now. So, but if you're using this Dream Station 2, just be very cognizant, pay very close attention. If it's something smells a little weird, like something's burning or heating up, again, maybe sometimes you're like, oh, what is that? It's probably your CPAP machine, and take this very seriously because, it is causing injuries and,
it's something important to keep an eye out on. I think I wouldn't, if I was using a CPAP machine, I would be, maybe worried it turns off in the middle of the night or something's not working correctly. A fly gets in there and then I'm inhaling fly. Those would be some of my concerns. But it blowing up in flames while I'm sleeping, not at the top of the list there.
No, and it really shouldn't be happening. And so unfortunately, but I just didn't want to finish up without at least talking about that briefly because it literally just came out the 28th. What are we today? Is this the 12th?
This is the 28th.
The 28th. All right. Well, it was breaking news today that the FDA has issued the safety communication, and we'll update. And of course, you can go on the FDA website to check out the details. If you have this machine, they have a list of things to look out for. But basically, if it smells strange, if it looks strange, if it sounds strange, if there's flames,
then you got to call someone.
Yeah.
Well,
unplug the thing.
Yeah.
Don't get Pam anywhere near it.
I know, Jesus. See, they're going to bed. They got a can of Pam. They got their CPAP machine right next to each other. And all of a sudden they wake up, flames everywhere, house on fire. God, terrible stuff. Terrible stuff.
Don't use Pam to cook your fingers.
Yeah. I mean, it is really just a whole mess of problems.
It's been a rough week, hasn't it?
It's been a rough week.
It's been a crazy week in the news and in the biz and the product liability.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to go on to some in the news cases. It's been a while since I think we've touched on them or really gone into more in depth like we have today. They're always some of the most interesting ones, I think, in my opinion, like the finger one. I mean, if there was a mass tort MDL case with broken off fingers, that would be interesting as well, but there doesn't seem to be any.
I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah. Well, I do want to thank everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us today. We are back every Wednesday, another week, another show. We'll be back next Wednesday with some more juicy updates, some more juicy cases in the news. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to throw them in the comments, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you're at. Throw in the comments. We'll see it. And if it's something you don't want to put out there, don't want to put it out in the public view, completely understand. You can email us at podcast@showardlaw.com. Any questions, stories, concerns, whatever it is, throw it in there, and we're happy to go over it on the show. But with that being said, I hope everyone has a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time. Prioritizing profits. Prioritizing
dangerous drug and product cases.